Hello, you're watching News Mongolia on MNB World, and I'm your host, Jargalma Doshinjargal. Our top stories for today. Challenges in Mongolia's energy sector. Inflation rate stays in single digits, reflecting stability in economy. Mongolia launches 18 billion Mongolian tukruks two-stage loan project for small and medium-sized enterprises and environmental initiatives. For the news, stay tuned. In 2022, it was estimated that an investment of 15 trillion Mongolian tukruks would be required to overhaul the energy infrastructure. Failure to implement reforms in Mongolia's energy sector could lead to future losses. Details are in the following report.
Electricity consumption is steadily increasing year by year. Failure to revise the tariff structure by 2026 will result in significant financial losses. The current tariff for producing electricity stands at 224 Mongolian tukruks, while it's sold at 170 Mongolian tukruks, resulting in a loss of 28%. Mongolia allocates around 2.2% of its income towards the cost electricity, notably less than Italy, which spends 7.2% of its income on the same. Studies have examined the potential burden on citizens if the electricity tariff were to increase by 10%, revealing a projected impact of 0.2% on inflation.
It is recommended to raise the tariff twice a year, but if that proves impossible, at least once a year would suffice. This strategy aims to ensure that by 2029, the energy sector operates without incurring any further losses. And from 2029, the energy sector should seek more targeted markets instead of depending on one single consumer.
Expansion plans for thermal power plant number 4 remain a standstill despite ongoing discussions aimed at attracting international investment. However, the emergence of a new trend focused on reducing carbon dioxide emissions has hindered investment in the coal sector. Consequently, international donors are reluctant to invest in the project. In addition, the state budget bill doesn't include such important expansion plans. MNB reporter talked to the Minister of Finance representative regarding this matter. The state budget bill cannot currently fund major projects adequately. Traditionally, 40% of the budget was allocated to the social sector, covering areas such as schools, kindergartens, and hospitals, while 20% was directed towards infrastructure projects. However, starting this year, there has been a shift with 42% of the budget allocated to infrastructure and 30% to the social sector. Experts note that the failure to enact reforms in the energy sector may lead to future losses. Electricity consumption is rising, necessitating a reassessment of tariff structures to avoid significant financial losses, given the current disparity between the cost of production and the tariffs charged to consumers.
In recent months, the nation has witnessed a commendable trend in maintaining inflation rate within single digits, signaling stability in the economic landscape. As of March this year, the inflation rate stood at 7% nationwide, with Ulaanbaatar city recording a slightly higher rate at 7.2%. These figures closely align with the target level set by the central bank, aiming to keep inflation at 6% by the end of 2024.
A significant contributor to the 7% inflation rate observed in March was the rise in food prices as well as beverages and bottled water, accounting for over 40% of the overall increase. This surge underscores the impact of essential commodities on the cost of living index. In essence, the prices of consumer goods and services witnessed a 7% uptick compared to the previous year. According to the National Statistics Office, over 40% of this escalation was attributed to the surge in prices within the food, beverages, and water sectors. A regional analysis reveals varying degrees of price hikes during this period. The goods category experienced an 8.2% surge in the Hangai region, while services saw a 7.6% increase in Ulaanbaatar. Furthermore, the central region witnessed 11.4% spike in food prices, while non-food items in Ulaanbaatar recorded a 6.1% increase. Comparing data from March 2023 to March 2024, a notable decline in the inflation rate is evident, dropping from 12.2% to the current 7%. This 5.2% decrease signifies a positive trend towards achieving economic stability and affordability for consumers.
A substantial two-stage loan project totaling 18 billion Mongolian tugruks has been initiated to bolster small and medium-sized enterprises and environmental efforts in Mongolia. Details as follows. Kang Hulig, Deputy Minister of Food, Agriculture and Light Industry, chaired the meeting with the team overseeing the implementation of the JICA project in Mongolia. During the discussion, it was unanimously agreed to allocate 18 billion Mongolian tugruks towards the 1,000 loan project under the two-stage initiative, which has been supporting small and medium-sized enterprises development and environmental conservation since 2006. The funds will be disbursed over a 10-year period through 6 commercial banks with an interest rate of 7%. According to statements from the Ministry of Food, Agriculture and Light Industry, the primary goal of the project is to foster stable economic development in Mongolia by providing accessible financing for small and medium-sized enterprises and promoting environmental protection measures. By facilitating financing and support, the initiative aims to stimulate growth within the small and medium-sized enterprises sector, while simultaneously advancing environmental conservation efforts. This initiative underscores the government's commitment to creating conducive environment for entrepreneurship and addressing environmental challenges. Thank you for staying with us. Now let's take a look at currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Next, our program will turn our attention to foreign news partnered with international news agencies. President Joe Biden welcomed Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida to the White House Wednesday for a state visit, hailing him a genuine leader, true partner, and a good friend.
Biden expressed gratitude to Kishida for his leadership on various issues, including support for Ukraine and economic investments boosting job growth across the Pacific. During an Oval Office meeting following a pomp-filled arrival ceremony on the White House South Lawn.
Well, Fumio, welcome back to the White House. Welcome back to the Oval Office. It's good to have you here. Good to see you again. When we were here last year, we said the role being played by the United States and Japan is becoming even greater, and I couldn't agree more with your assertion back then. And what we see in our joint support for Ukraine in the face of Russia's vicious assault is just outrageous. We see it in our historic trilateral relationship with South Korea. We see it in our economic investments, which has helped generate millions of jobs across both our nations. And I sincerely want to thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for your bold leadership across all these issues. You personally have made all this possible. And I would assert our alliance has never been stronger in our entire history.
Kishida's official visit completes the administration's series of meetings with Quad leaders, the US, Japan, Australia, and India, which the White House has prioritized since Biden's inauguration.
And thank you for being here, Mr. Prime Minister. You've heard me say this before, but I'll say it again. You're a genuine leader, a true partner, and a good friend. Thank you for being here.
Up until now, Joe, you and I, we have had countless dialogues, and we have nurtured a friendship and trust along the way. Japan and the United States are now at the forefront, maintaining, strengthening a free and open international order based on the rule of law.
Biden emphasized the strong bond between Japan and the U.S., stating that they will build a future as global partners and confirming the pivotal relationship between the two nations.
Japan and the United States are also indispensable now to each other in driving sustainable and inclusive economic growth as well. Through this official visit, I look forward to confirming the robust bond between our two nations and demonstrate at home and abroad how the Japan and U.S. firmly bound together will build a future as global partners.
Sustainable and inclusive.
The visit signifies Japan's transition from a regional player to a global influencer, with the senior Biden administration officials noting Japan's extensive support for U.S. initiatives across the globe.
Why Japan now?
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said comments made by President Joe Biden that he is considering requests from Australia to drop the decade-long U.S. push to prosecute WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange were encouraging.
This is an encouraging comment from...
For years, Australia has called on the U.S. to drop its prosecution against Assange, an Australian citizen who has fought U.S. extradition efforts from prison in the U.K. Asked about the request on Wednesday as he hosted Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida for an official visit, Biden said, "We are considering it."
Well, this is an encouraging statement from President Biden. I have said that we have raised, on behalf of Mr. Assange, Australia's national interests, that enough is enough, that this needs to be brought to a conclusion, and we've raised it at each level of government in every possible way. We'll continue to engage diplomatically in that in order to achieve an outcome that I believe Australians want to see.
Assange has been indicted on 17 espionage charges and one charge of computer misuse over his website's publication of a trove of classified U.S. documents almost 15 years ago. American prosecutors allege that Assange encouraged and helped U.S. Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning steal diplomatic cables and military files that WikiLeaks published, putting lives at risk. Australia argues there is a disconnect between the U.S. treatment of Assange and Manning. Then U.S. President Barack Obama commuted Manning's 35-year sentence to 7 years, which allowed her release in 2017. Assange's supporters say he is a journalist protected by the First Amendment who exposed U.S. military wrongdoing in Iraq and Afghanistan that was in the public interest. A British court ruled last month that Assange can't be extradited to the United States on espionage charges unless U.S. authorities guarantee he won't get the death penalty.
In my very strong view, and
Now let's take a look at international current affairs.
Guatemala's president on Wednesday issued a natural disaster declaration as fires continue to burn across the Central American country. President Bernardo Arevalo said that 80% of the fires were started by people. The disaster declaration frees up funding for firefighting efforts. On Tuesday, the Minister of Defense said that at least 44 forest fires were active in the country. One of the largest was burning in a landfill in Villanueva, one of the largest commuter zones in Guatemala's capital. Authorities have cancelled classes across 3 central provinces to protect students from the prevailing smoke. They also have launched 37 criminal lawsuits so far to find the culprits and investigate the source of the fires. Farmers often burn stubble and grass in their fields around this time of year in preparation for planting.
Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We will see you at Friday with more news and updates. Goodbye.